guys, how are you? You probably know at this stage I'd say this is about my 10th video, but I said when I get a chance I've done the David Brown story here to the best of my knowledge. Mightn't have it 100% right. If you know a bit better, please inform me below. Don't be bitchy about it or whatever, but just inform me, tell me no, you're wrong there and this and that. So there's a lineup of Fergusons. There's everything from the Ferguson 20 TVOs and all that right up along to 690s, and there's even a 2620 down the yard. But we said we'd just give a look through and I'll tell you my story of Harry Ferguson and how he got going, and we'll just be looking at the different range of Fergusons while we're doing that. So here is, to me, which is the Ferguson 20. Harry Ferguson's first tractor. Well, it's not really. This is a Ferguson. Has got a badge on it. Is she a Massey Harris? She's made in England. She's a Harry Ferguson Limited. Okay, so she is a Harry Ferguson Limited. This has the standard, I could be wrong, but I'm open to correction. To me, this has the standard engine. These were imported engines. These were after he had the falling out with what you call it. Sorry, the Continental engine. This is the tractor after he had the falling out with David Brown. The Ferguson Brown, the Ferguson Black and all that kind of stuff. He had a falling out with David Brown because Harry Ferguson, even go back a small bit, Harry Ferguson, David Brown at the start, they kind of never got on. Even at the very start, Harry Ferguson wanted 3 gears, first, second and reverse. But David Brown fought with him and he said, no, you have to have a road gear. So the third gear in your grey Ferguson, be very thankful of David Brown, because David Brown made him put it in. They done this, and this is a more newer one, and they had he done all these tractors up along. They had massive success. But of course then he joined up with Henry Ford, and they had the Ford Nan, which the Ford with the Ferguson system. But that didn't last too long. That was the famous handshake. And if you want to see one of those tractors, go up to Kilrush in County Clare, just across from me in the ferry, and go to Whelan's. Have an absolutely fantastic museum above there where they have the full lineup and the full history of Ferguson tractors is there for you to see. But anyway, he joined up with Henry Ford, and after Henry Ford he had a falling out with Henry Ford, and he eventually kind of got going on his own. It was the first time he got going on his own, and he made the Ferguson with a Continental engine, but he only made him for a very small amount of time. Eventually he sold the company to Massey Harris, and when he sold the company to Massey Harris, that's where the red came in, and the gold. By the way, the gold is Massey Harris, and that's when they came up with more or less this tractor. It was the Ferguson 35, and well, it was the grey Ferguson as we know it as well. But if you look at the grey Ferguson right in front of the steering here, there'll be a badge, and that'll give it away whether it's a Massey Ferguson or a Massey Harris Ferguson or whatever. But then they came up with this. This was the next tractor, and they went on from the 20 Ferguson 20 to the 30 and the 35, and they just went on from there and there and there. At this stage, when you're looking at this tractor, I think Harry Ferguson had nothing to do with the company. He's gone. Harry Ferguson's gone. Massey Harris has been bought out completely, and they wind down the name Massey Harris. And there was actually dealers in America for a while, and they were selling both Massey Harris and Ferguson tractors, and then they combined it to make Massey Harris Ferguson, and they went from the 35 to the 135. And of course the 135, you had different variations. You had live drive, you had non-live drive, you had a massive variation, and you had a heap of variations of tractors. They were sold all over the world. They were an absolutely iconic tractor, which they still are. I suppose, to be honest, they were probably the most sold Massey Ferguson tractor in Ireland. There was 2-wheel drives, there was 4-wheel drives. There was a good bit of variation in it, but still, as I said in the previous video, there wasn't as much as the David Brown. And they sold them all over the world. Even to look at this one here, I think this is a 185, and you'll see the cab. It's the same tractor. Well, she's a 175. She's the same idea. she's the same idea, but she's just a slightly different cab for a slightly different, I suppose, country or whatever. And yeah, they kind of went on from there. And of course, we'll go up here now next door. And when they went on, they had the 165s and all that, and then they had the 250. The 250, to the best of my knowledge, is more or less a 135 with newer closing. Now, could be wrong, open to correction on that, but I think the 135 and the 250 is more or less the absolutely same tractor. And of course, you have the 565s, and there is so much stuff. It is just frightening. We have the 265 here, which is the next one on again. We're moving up along the years now. This will probably late 70s. And you have, so we looked at that David Brown. We have this yoke, a 3165. I've never seen a 3165 until today. I saw a 3135. What it basically is, it's a 135 or a 165, which this is, with a digger attachment. She's kind of an industrial, built up a bit stronger, an industrial loader put on it to suit whatever. These are making big money, because they weren't in that plentiful. And then we can go on to this, which we have the 675. We had the 675, they had the 690, and there was a 699, and then there was a 690T and all that, but there wasn't that massive variation in tractors. But they had what people wanted, but they didn't go out of their mind creating different tractors, different ideas, as Ford kind of did. Ford kind of done a lot of that. They had too many varieties of tractors. Then it went from this model to this model, the 390. 390s would be very early late 80s, early 90s. This is probably an early 90s version. Again, these tractors have become absolutely iconic tractors in the market. They're tractors. These are fellows roaring for them. I said before, they're bulletproof tractors on a video, and a very smart man told me he didn't realise that the 390 was actually bulletproof. Well, they are, and if you're that thick that you don't know what I meant by saying they were bulletproof tractors, fair play to you. These tractors they stay going. They're making massive money. They're holding their money. They just are. And of course, then they went from the 390, and they went up along. There's more newer stuff down the yard, but we're not going down the yard. It's a nice Massey. They went from this look to the 3070s. Now, there was a massive range of stuff in this. There was 3070s, there was 3030s, there was I think there was a 3070, and then there was a 3075, which is a slightly later model. Then there was a 31, and then there was a 36, then there was a 3650, 3640, and of course the 3650, 3655, which I drove for a couple of years of silage, was an animal of a tractor. And of course, I think the famous Grassmen have, is it a 3690? I think Farmer Phil has a 3690. They were just absolutely fantastic tractors. They went up. In 3690 was about 200 horsepower. I drove a 3670 for a small while, drawn silage and mowing. And its downfall was, it was an imported tractor from, I don't know, not even from the UK into Ireland. It was an imported tractor from some other, I'll figure out how to stop that screen going black, from some other country, and they couldn't get a clutch for it. I don't know why. It was going back around 97 or 01, thereabouts. They couldn't get a clutch for it, and eventually it went its road, it went its sale. But Ferguson are just, that was a kind of a very brief history of the history of Ferguson tractors. I'm open to correction. I'm open for you to correct me. And of course, Ferguson now are just Atco. Is it Atco? They are. Is it Atco? I don't know. I can't remember now, to be honest. But like, they're just an iconic brand again. Part of Valtra, part of Fint. What else is there? There are just serious tractors, and all started out by a fella, believe it or believe it not, by a fella above in Northern Ireland. He worked with his brother in a bicycle shop, and he into the competition. The British were in charge of Ireland that time. He entered the competition to sell to the first person to fly a plane in Ireland, and he won it. He built and flew his own plane in Ireland, and he won the prize. The prize money was £500, and when he won the £500, he invested it in the Ferguson Black, or the Ferguson company, or invested it in getting his design off the ground. And even up until that point, he was actually selling tractors in Ireland. If you might know them, they're the overtime tractors. I have a video there. Find it, overtime tractors. He made a video. He was the sales rep for overtime tractors in Ireland. And for those of you that don't know who overtime tractors were, overtime were actually Waterloo Boy tractors. They were sold in America as Waterloo Boys. They brought him into the UK. They disassembled them and they remanufactured them again, and they sold them as overtimes. So the idea was that you would work overtime. That was it. You were working overtime. Okay. Alright guys, give a like, give a subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.